Well, finest of mornings to you, gentle listener, and hello to you, legendary strength coach, according to Men's Health Magazine, Dan John.
Hey, hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, enjoying my morning coffee here, and just looking at this old specimen, Paleo Workouts for Dummies. We were talking a little bit about this behind the
Yeah,
scenes. This was my first published fitness book, for Dummies book. If people can see it on the screen.
I didn't. No, wait. That's your.
First, like, actually published by a publisher fitness book.
Oh, oh,
Had
okay.
a few self-published things beforehand, when we first met, and, we were talking last week, Dan, of how you were somebody who did the entire program,
Yeah.
the full 90-day
No,
program.
no. I did the 180s. I did the 180.
You did the 180, which is even more intense, and you gave me great feedback
Yeah.
that I have incorporated into my programming since. Wiley has not asked me to do a revision of this book, so it is as it remains. But I was kind of, lamenting with you that is there anything worse than just like looking at the stuff that you wrote? I want to say 10 years ago, but I can't say that I don't feel the same way looking at stuff that I wrote like even 2 weeks ago.
Well, first off, we took second in trivia last night by a point, and
Cheers.
we did our best. It was a great night. We did well. I'm as disappointed as the listeners, but we got to move on. So I look back on some of my work. Like I have a paper called "A Conservation of Detail: A New Look at the Beowulf Poet" that I wrote in probably 81, and I presented it at a conference, and it was published. And I look at that, and it's like it is really, really, really good. And then I look at the next article I published called "Arturus Rex Superstar: King Arthur Superstar," and I read through it, and it's like it's not terrible,
Mm-hmm.
it's not good, and then that's kind of how I seem to do things. Either I don't remember writing it and I think it's really good, or I remember writing it and it sucks. So I think maybe there's your secret. There.
I like that. Yeah, and now don't let me disparage myself too much. I think when I look back at this book, I would say about 90% of it I'm still very happy with. And the things that I would change are essentially the critiques that you gave me. I would tone down. There's two major things I would change. I would tone down the intensity, especially in the metabolic conditioning, which was your primary critique.
Yeah.
And I would just not have certain exercises in there anymore, like the one-arm chin-up, kind of some of these circusy trick exercises. But other than that, yeah. So if somebody's about to click buy on Amazon, do it. I'll take your 13-cent royalty check. Thank you. But yeah, those are just looking back over my work. I think those would be the two things I would change about it. Dan, I'm curious for you. Is there any major theme over the I guess the development of your career, or something that you wrote maybe 10 years ago? Maybe that's a good timeline where you're like 90% happy with it, right? It's like, yeah, it's like 90% there,
Yeah.
but there's like one or two things that I would change about it or alter in light of where I am now. I'd be curious to hear that.
Yeah. It's weird because as good as the Tabata front squat stuff was for me, which kind of introduced Tabatas to the world, and I'm going to take it, and I'm serious because that kind of did. I regret what happened with it. I wish I would have just made it clear that it's a 4-minute workout, and that's it. The front squat's the only exercise that ever has worked in it and never will. Well, I guess the bottom to bottom thing works, but it's a body weight thing. I have some regrets. The 10,000 swing challenge, the way it got morphed into what it became. Again, I think it's a wonderful thing, and I think it's a great January pick-me-up, but people don't swing correctly. It's right there in the articles every single time. If you don't swing right, it's probably a negative, thing to do. I look back, and I actually sometimes I look back on my voice from the 2000s, and I miss my voice. I was much angrier then because I was in the weight room. I was seeing this stuff in real time. And I become much more of a mentory, older wizard now, just this kind Gandalf, who shows up on time, or whatever the phrase is. I miss the voice. I like the fact that I was much more aggressive back then, but I pissed a lot of people off, and
It would appeal to the T-Nation audience, I suppose,
it
right?
did,
Yeah.
yeah, and it did, and I still look at some of those things, and it's,
I know it's kind of like your ticket in. If you weren't kind of like the
yeah,
machismo,
yeah. There's way too much volume in some of my early writings because that's just the world. But it was still, and in my defense, since the beginning, I have been. The phrase, I never got it until actually it was Father Michael Himes in a talk. What do you mean by that? So for me, when people say I'm going heavy, I used to go, yeah, right on. Now I say, what do you mean by that? And they'll say, well, I was bench pressing, 90 pounds. Now I'm going to go. I'm thinking about going up to 95 this week on the machine. Yeah, okay, that's not heavy. I mean, no offense, that's just not heavy. It's you're still a newbie, and do not share your life story online because you're not good enough yet. Ooh, that was mean, but it's true. And so that's, I wish I would have been a lot clearer about what I expected. When I talk about the one lift a day, I'm talking about huge lifts, on the back squat day, sneaking up on 600 for reps, not sneaking up on 195 for reps. And I'm not ripping on those numbers. I'm just saying the reason I had to move to those kinds of things was because the load was so big. As a clean athlete, I couldn't keep doing it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That is an honest answer to a sincere question, and I appreciate that. Dan, one thing, by the way, gentle listeners, we'll be taking questions here as always as we move along. So please chime in. Let us know what you're drinking. Let us know what questions we can answer for you or things we can reflect upon. Here's one thing I want to talk to you about, Dan. We've talked a lot about killer apps in general. This is a theme of yours, picking the best tool for the job. I actually want to narrow in a little bit on kettlebell exercises as killer apps individually, if that makes sense. Because I put up a video recently and people said that they found it helpful. It was just 15 sort of beginner kettlebell exercises. People can find it. It's like 2 days old, right? And I just quickly demoed 15 exercises, and I got a number of remarks, all very kind, because nobody who listens to this podcast is ever annoying,
They're all wonderful.
But I saying like, hey Pat, I didn't think you liked this exercise, or I didn't think you liked that exercise, like the windmill or the get up. And I had to say, it's not, very rarely is an exercise where I'm just like, just not doing it at all. Now there are some exceptions. I admitted the one arm chin up is one of those moves where I just think straight out, it's not worth it anymore. Been there, done that. I just don't do it. Right. But there's other exercises where it's the application that matters. And I might like it in one context, but not like it in another context. And I think it would be fun and useful maybe to perhaps go through this with you, some of these kind of more popular or common kettlebell exercises. Just to start it off, the windmill came up.
Okay, let me give you my triune of perfection. Okay.
Ooh, I like that. The triune.
Two-handed, the swing, we have both hands on the bell, the goblet squat, and then the half kneeling press. I think those would be the ones that I think in that weird internet world, if you could only do, those would be the killer apps. I used to say the Turkish Getup, and that's in my book, Hardstyle Kettlebell Challenge. But the problem with the Getup is it turned into a religion, and parts of the Getup are really valuable, but not necessarily the whole.
We already have a question asking from Jay Johnson. Are Turkish Getups really that important? So,
well, there's this great book called Paleo Fitness for Dummies, where the author tells us to do 5 minutes of, let me see if I got daily warm up, 5 minutes of naked Turkish Getups. That's Turkish Getups without any load. And the author, I think not doing Turkish Getups without the load has real value.
The author has returned to his original form with short hair. Look at that. Short hair.
Oh, you got a haircut, did you now?
You didn't even notice. Oh, Dan.
We got headphones
on. Me. Yeah.
Let me see.
Yeah, it's not much to see because it's pretty much all gone. Yeah. Okay. So yes. So that's continue. Sorry to interrupt your train of thought.
Yeah. So those would be the ones that I think that if all you did is, if you had clients who had if you did, like some original strength or some mobility work, whatever, and then you did swing swing goblet squat, and then you did half kneeling presses, and then you did swings, and then went for a walk. There you go. There's your perfect workout, because I think you hit the whole body. The half kneeling press brings out your pelvic bowl underneath your rib cage. It's a great flexibility movement, and it's a great flexibility movement, bro. Yeah.
Right. So in this video, I just linked the video in the comments if anyone wants to see that. If I put the getup in there, but I actually put the reverse getup in there. And somebody said, well, I'm surprised that you don't have a full getup in there. And my reply is, look, for beginners, I've found, and Dan, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, that this movement tends to be a lot more intuitive if you start from the top and you work back down and then you get back up. Right.
I also, that's why I have people do the press. So you take an extremely light bell. I mean, this Waterford this Waterford goblet filled with crystal light, that light, and you do so you're standing, you do a press here, you step back into that cross country position, not yet a lunge, but with the knees still above the ground, press to the lunge, press, windshield wiper the foot, press, bring the hand down, press. It's more of a bent press. Right. Sit through, tall sit press, to the elbow press, to the back press, cradle, and then roll. Then pick the weight up and start again. The nice thing about doing the Turkish get down press is that you lose the religion of it, and the press is a distraction from the positions. And it also gives me time to run around and fix people's hand positions or foot positions or whatever.
Right. Yeah. It's so good to just have ways of structuring or progressing through an exercise where it's almost automatic that people are going to get things right. 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 Just trying to remove barriers to entry or ways that people can mess things up. And one of the simplest ways for me for the get up is just don't start from the bottom. Start from the top, because you tend to naturally land in the right positions if you work your way down first. Whereas if you're working your way up, I mean, people just tie themselves into knots starting out. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember the one time when I went to the RKC, and somebody had decided that there were 14 steps up and 14 steps down. And they said if I would teach.
That's a new record.
And I'm sitting there and I've got the manual in front of me going, oh, dear God, now it's 7. And step 7, I think, is go back down. But like with everything, we have to complicate it to simplify it. And I think that's just a life truth, maybe. I don't agree with it, but I think it's just a life truth.
Sure.
You just have to make things much more complicated before you have the courage to simplify that.
Right. All right. So let's start.
Just popped up, boy, in my house, didn't you? You can see all that.
Yeah. Well, boo. Let's maybe start putting some of these exercises into categories, right?
Sure.
So some exercise, kettlebell. I want to focus on kettlebells, right? Some are obviously good to go heavy with and build strength with. Others, like the Getup, it sounds like, Dan, the killer app of the Getup for you is more of a movement, a mobility, a warm-up tool. Is that fair? How would you?
Yeah, I'm to that. Yeah, I would say that. So the Turkish Getup is a series of tools that we link together into one movement. So the kneeling windmill position, you can do a lot of mobility in that position. You can do a lot of flexibility work in that position. You can do some presses. You can do a lot of things. When you link the tall sit to the kneeling windmill to the lunge to then you have a whole movement. But you don't necessarily need to teach that the rolling, the rolling 45 movement, up to the T. Real value for everybody. And when you link it all together, it becomes a Turkish Getup. So it's in the same way, if you don't mind, if you don't want to teach the Olympic lifts, there's real value in the clean deadlift, the front squat, the military press, the push press, the push jerk. And if you decide to link the movements into the clean and jerk, good for you. But you can get a lot of the value of a clean and jerk in Olympic lifting from doing those movements.
Sure.
Yeah. Does that? I hope that was logical.
Yeah, it does. Now let's talk about the kneeling press. Shamefully, I didn't include that in my epic video, but that'll come in when I do my 16 best kettlebell exercises, right? So stay tuned. What do you think do you ever recommend people push the weight with the kneeling press, or is this sort of a more of a progressive intermediary pressing variation for you?
So with the half kneeling press, my favorite thing to do is say up to 25 reps.
Right.
And the reason I like that is because when you're in the half kneeling position, there is, if you get wobble, I want the weight to come down, but I want you to wobble. I want you to, so I want, okay, say like for me, a good bell is a 20 or 24 for the half kneeling press. So could I do with my right arm 25 reps with the 20? On a good day, I think I could. I really honestly think I could get there. Now,
With a strong cup of coffee, sure.
yeah, a couple mugs, yeah. But at the end, I'll be really, I'll be leaning into it. And when I lean into it, my hips have to take more and more of the hit. So what's nice about saying up to 25 is that it gives you a lot of a feedback loop. So, okay, let's think about this way. On one day you did you're just going to use a 20, okay, for this example. I say up to 25 reps each hand. If it's left knee down, we're going to go left hand in this example, okay? Left knee down, left hand press in this example. So on day one, on your left hand, it takes you 7 sets to get to 25. You go on a vacation, you come back, and it takes you 8 sets, to get to 25. Well, I'm going to say right now, that 20 was probably too heavy that day. Over time now, you're down to 5 sets, 4 sets, 3 sets. And then I'd ask you a question. I go, well, what set was the most? Here's the odd thing, Pat. Usually the second set of up to 25 has the most reps. Because it's like everything has to kind of find their place.
Yeah, yeah.
So the nice thing about the half kneeling press is its flexibility, mobility, and it is a bit of a check-in. It's a bit of an assessment exercise to how things are going.
Nice.
Oddly, after an Olympic lifting meet, if you ask me to do that, it takes me about a week or two to get my numbers back up at all, to even 8 with the 20, because I've lost. Olympic lifting, as great as it is, made me lose something else, some other quality.
Right. Yeah, that darn law of specificity, right?
Yeah. Now I know that was a lot of yakking, but I hope.
No, that's really helpful. I appreciate it, Dan. Personally, I'd be curious what you do in your pressing routines these days. Maybe that's just it, but I don't overhead press really super heavy anymore. I do dips with significant amounts of intensity. I even do horizontal pushing with significant amounts of intensity. But for me, just the overhead pressing, I feel more like what you've talked about tends to be overall more beneficial to me. If I start really pushing, especially the volume and intensity with overhead pressing, like I can't back out of the driveway anymore. It's just one of those things, right? It's just if I keep it at a certain intensity and volume level, fine. Everything feels good. Awesome. If I push beyond a particular threshold, really like 24 to 28 kilogram, a fair amount of load with that seems to be kind of like where my body starts to draw the line.
I'm doing a short experiment. I call it 3 by 3 by 3. So I do do you want me to just go through it real fast?
Yeah, this would be cool.
Okay, so I do the 30-second hang. I do the 30-second sit in the goblet squat. Okay. I do my snatch complex, which is 4 snatch movements back to back to back with a PVC pipe. In between, I do this little, don't worry about it. I hook my toe under a kettlebell and I do a knee raise to my chest. I'm just experimenting with the exercise. Don't worry about it. So snatch complex with what we call the lead foot. Then it's time to lift. And what I'm doing now is 3 exercises. So it's the Olympic snatch, the front squat, and the clean and press last. Now the clean and press last. Okay. And there's a reason for that. So I have my boots on. And so I do 3 sets of 3 in the snatch, supersetted with 3 sets of 3 in the front squat with chains. Switch my shoes off, put on my walking shoes, do 3 sets of 3 in the clean and press, and go for a walk. So I'm experimenting. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do this Easy strength for fat loss through Olympic lifting. It's called the 3x3 though. So yeah, I'm doing nine presses every workout now, Olympic presses. But
Mhm.
it's just, and the nice thing is, it's shockingly is that really gets that it really gets that heart rate through the roof, weirdly high.
Oh, yeah, I believe that.
The
Mhm.
clean and press. And on Monday, I did the clean press variation. But what I'd like to do is clean and press, clean and press, clean and press. But I was already breathing through my eyeballs by the time I got to the clean and press. When I started my walk, I was a sweaty mess because I'm doing supersetting squat snatch with front squat.
Right, right.
And by the way, what did I figure out? How many damn squats did I did a lot of squats in this workout. So in my snatch complex, it's 5 Romanian deadlifts, 5 hang snatches, 5 overhead squats, 5 back squats. So that's 15 squats per complex, and I do 3 rounds. So that's 45 squats going into it. Add 9, add 9, add 9. So that's a lot of squats in a very, very short amount of time. And remember, I'm a hinger. I like hinging. Squats really roast me, my metabolism and my enthusiasm. So for me, when I squat, my heart rate goes through the roof. So,
Yeah, exercises that roast your enthusiasm. Split squats for me would be number one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna refill my coffee real quick.
Yeah, please do. We got some questions coming in, so I'll gear those up.
Why don't you answer? I want to go through your list.
All 15 of them?
Yeah, and tell you what, would you mind posting the next 90 days that I put together for you?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, if you send it to me, I'll just put it right on the show notes
Yeah.
page.
Okay. Let me go through. Okay. Let me
Right, well,
work out.
go get your coffee. I'll explain to
Hold
the
on.
gentle
Hold on.
listeners what's
Day
there.
89, daily warm up. Okay, and I do it. Strength. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Deadlift ladder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Front squat ladder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ab wheel. 2 to 3 rounds of the following complex: 15 double swings, 15 double snatches, 15 double cleans and presses, 15 front squats, 15 push-ups. God, Pat, you bastard. Jeez.
Well, there
God,
you go.
no
All
wonder I'm
right.
so angry with you.
Gentle listeners, I see some great questions already. So now would be the time. Please submit whatever you have. Dan and I will be tending to these. By the way, if you haven't seen the video that I put up of 15 fundamental beginner kettlebell exercises, check that out. I just wanted to get a quick tutorial
Oh, hey,
demo of those
Pat,
out there for you. Yes, Dan.
one thing I did, hi, and everyone gets to see if I'm wearing pants or not. One thing I did that I thought was a really good idea is I retyped everything from your book,
Mm-hmm.
and then
And replace my words with yours, and then
no, I did replace though. You said like hinge. You didn't say hinge. You said squat A or squat B.
yeah, I have hinge A
Hinge
and
A.
squat A and this and that.
And
Yeah.
so what I did is I went through it and I did that find and replace, and so I typed in all the workouts, and then where it said hinge A, I typed in deadlift,
Nice.
and then replaced all hinge A's with deadlift. It didn't take me a terribly long time, but I think it was really worth it. Okay.
Yeah. So you have that. We can share that with the gentle.
And I'll
All
see
right.
now that I know what I'm looking for.
So afterwards, once we're done with the stream here, gentle listeners, head over to chroniclesofstrength.com for the show notes, and we'll put that whole protocol, if Dan can find it, on the show notes page for all of you to enjoy. Free of charge.
Free of charge.
Free of charge. Free of charge. All right. While you look that up, Dan, I'm going to read this first question here from Anthony. Anthony says he's got an overweight friend with a knee injury. He would like to help him get in shape. He would like to help his friend get in shape. What exercises would be a good place to start?
Well, I mean, is the person cleared? You know what I mean? Is the person cleared?
Right. Yes. Always obvious disclaimers. Do they have their doctor's clearance to start engaging in resistance training and exercise and stuff like that? Asterisk, right? That type of thing. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not at all trying to be a douche at all or anything. I'm trying to help. I just kind of worry a little bit about, you know, what kind of knee injury we're talking about, young friend, and um, if the person can walk. Help me out, Pat.
Yeah, I mean, look, what you say is right. It depends on the person significantly. Now, what I've found as a general rule is if they're cleared and they just have knee issues, right? But doc has said, look, yeah, you can resistance train, just don't do anything that hurts, right? What I found is that yeah, the low impact stuff, walking tends to be very useful. Maybe some light hinging movements
Oh, yeah.
tend to be easier on the knee. Sometimes you'll have issues with the squatting patterns at first. It doesn't mean that they're not doesn't mean they're off the board entirely. You might just have to limit or restrict range of motion, which I think is really important, right? People often think like if you don't do full ROM, then you're just not a real human being or something like that. That's ridiculous. Now, I find that hinging for people who are quite overweight or have relative joint issues tends to be quite accessible, even if you have to limit that, right? So deadlifting kettlebells from a platform, an elevated surface, not doing full swings or anything like that, just getting that hinging pattern down tends to be pretty gentle overall on the joints and especially the knees. So I would start to hint in that general direction. But then, yeah, get the walking going and get the diet in place. And you don't need to go do a whole lot of crazy stuff in terms of resistance training. Some basic hinging, some basic pressing can go a long way. Just those two things, right? Mm-hmm.
You know, upper body work as much as you can build in. I mean, I've had knee injuries, and that's actually the knee injury I had my junior year in high school is probably what propelled me to being such a great bench presser, because since I couldn't do anything else, I just put my leg up on a chair and bench pressed 3 times a day until my shoulders wore out. And then
Right. Yeah. I mean, train the upper body to, all day long.
get
Right.
get those pythons pythonating, my friend.
Yeah. Push, pull, curl,
Yeah.
extend, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. If that's accessible, do it. And then, with the walking and the nutrition, you can take somebody a long way.
Oh boy, the nutrition. I mean, and Saul has a question here about what kimchi I'm eating. Saul, I eat whatever kimchi they have at the store. I get the homemade kimchi at the store, and I bought 2 gallons of it yesterday. But for the question about his friend with the knee injury, I mean, this is a great time to lock and load these the fermented foods down, the fiber at every meal, the vegetables at every meal, more water. You know, the nice thing about an injury is it makes you step back and look again at everything, your decision matrix. And
Right.
this is a great time to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes, I'm not saying this is the case here, but sometimes injuries can present you with important opportunities because let's be honest, sometimes we injure ourselves because we're doing too much of things that we like and are already good at and not enough of the things that we suck at. And then we get hurt at that thing because we do so much of it. And then we're kind of forced to do other things, the things we're not so good at. So,
and that's why Stu McGill calls his book The Gift of Injury.
does he really? I did not know that. I like that.
I think it's his best book because I like it because there's a story. It's story time. There's a very good story in it. Yeah.
Cool. Next question comes from Hanuman. He says, "Greeting."
Hanuman!
He wants to know.
Sita and Hanuman. There we go.
His question is the absence of deadlift a lack in a kettlebell program? Are kettlebell ballistics sufficient to build enough strength into posterior chain?
Okay.
Yeah. So in regards to your standard of 2 times body weight deadlift for a male. So he wants to know, this is Dan's standard, deadlift twice your body weight. Is that still your standard? I guess is one question, Dan.
Yeah.
And are kettlebells enough? Are they enough?
Well, as I show in certs, there's really lots of issues with the kettlebell deadlift, but are you going to tell me that a correctly done kettlebell swing is not a hinge? It's a ballistic, when you look at someone doing a rack deadlift, you look at someone doing a swing, they're the same exercise, I think I don't want to go too far with this because, I am noted for my hyperbole, but I think the king of the hinge movements is a correctly done kettlebell swing.
Right. Yeah.
Now you'll notice I said certain things there. I said kettlebell, and I said correctly done, and I said swing, and it's what I think a swing is. And Yeah, we call it the WTF effect. Yeah, I think. In fact, there's that one powerlifter who increased his deadlift by adding kettlebell swings. I think it was Donnie Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we always have hyperbole in our field, but I think it's enough. Yeah, I think it's enough. The other thing too, I also like, Pat. I notice when I do the 10,000 swing challenge, even though I am screaming and crying through the entire thing and complaining like a newborn, I do notice some freakish changes in certain things when I'm finished with it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Stuff I didn't expect.
Cool. Jay Johnson says, do you gentlemen think that there is a benefit from doing single kettlebell front squats over double bell? I am speaking for people that have access to 2 kettlebells. So Johnson, just clarify, do we mean single like goblet squat, or do we mean like single arm rack squat? And and maybe Dan, you could
let's just go through.
both
Yeah, so there's great value to goblet squats for mobility, flexibility, that anaconda strength, upper body tension, and some obviously development. The double kettlebell front squat, I think is the most people ever need to do in their life. As that load slides down under, as you get tired, it just causes so many. I would hope they were good changes in the body. When you go to the single side, you get a lot of that also. The only issue is a lot of people do twist on the single side movements, and that's my only caveat. Chin, sternum, zipper in a straight line. If you're by yourself, look in a mirror. Once you see yourself turning and twisting, call the set finished. That'd be my. But I think the goblet squat, the single side rack squat, and the double kettlebell front squat are a unique set of movements that provide benefits you might not even see while you're doing them. I think they actually make you better in ways which you won't notice. Like you won't peak your biceps. Oh, look, or you won't. But overall, good things are coming out of you.
So the short answer is yes, all of the above.
Well, if you want the short answer, bring somebody else on your show.
No, I think it's great. Dan, would you also? I think I know the answer to this, but would you also recommend front squats? And when we say front squats, we mean 2 kettlebells, but of different weights.
I love it, especially if you have a 2-to-1 ratio.
2-to-1 ratio specifically. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, only because okay. So if I have a 32 here and a 16,
and a 16,
here,
yeah, that's enough
that there's a difference. 24 and a 12, 20 and a 10, enough that you come up. Your ab wall will know there's a difference, and I love that little tug of war that goes on.
Right. So
you're dealing with
like 24, 20, not that big of a difference, but going 32, 16. Now we're cooking. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that would be for the men listening. But and then when you put the weight down and then you step over. So, okay. I like to just leave the bells on the ground and you step over to the other side. Okay. Instead of, you know what I'm saying? So if I got 32, 16, I put the weights down, I step over and I do my next step with 32 and 16, then that's when you really open up the door. When your less strong side has the bigger load, you really start to see how much you truly do cheat. And I wouldn't say cheat, how much you over accommodate when you squat.
Right. Do you like the same idea with pressing?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Again, what you'll find, and this is when I first started having athletes do the one-arm bench press with the offhand free, is we began to really discover that most high school boys, if they bench press 200, the joke was they bench 180 with the right hand and 20 with their left.
Right.
And then because they're so dominant on one side, my standard for a high school boy is 32 for 5 on the right side and 32 for 5 on the left side. But what would happen is you'd have a kid do 32 for 20 on the right side and 1 on the left. Mm-hmm. So when they bench press, they were bench pressing, kind of doing a one-arm bench press with an outrigger. All that left arm was doing was just holding the boat steady. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Good question. Good stuff. Tom says, hello to you both. I'm training for a 100 kilometer run next year. Looking for a gym program 2 days per week for bench, squat, good morning, pull up, etc. Is simple strength something you would recommend? Thank you.
Well, I wouldn't. I see no value in the good morning for him if he's squatting. Simple strength, does he mean the one? Do you mean the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 simple strength like Pat does, or do you mean like what Phil Maffetone means? Could you just follow up on that, Tom, real quick?
Yeah.
What do you mean by simple strength? It's a phrase a lot of us use, so we have to be careful.
All right, let's generalize it for now, Dan. So say somebody, the training's for some running event, right? Let's be clear, right? If you want to be a better runner, you have to run, right? You're not going to get around the law of specificity. So I take this question to mean something like, what can I do to keep me well balanced in the weight room around my running program without interfering or being a detriment to my running protocol? So let me frame this, right? We're going to assume that you already have a plan from your running coach, right? Something specific. And you're asking, how do I stay well balanced, generally strong with a weight training program that will support me and not take away from this specific goal that I have? So that maybe that's not his question, but that's the way I just naturally read something like this. So Dan, what would you say to that? Mm-hmm.
I don't mind the idea of bench press or military in his program. I'm going to talk about a strength program, okay?
Sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I like the pull-ups in there. The movement of squatting I like. I would switch out the good morning for a deadlift, and I would just do a very simple Percy Cerruti program, an easy strength, 2 sets of 5. Try to add, take your time. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1,
yeah,
2,
Tom clarified. I mean, Dan's T Nation article of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, then I wouldn't do more than go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 and stop there. Don't add the third one, just because you get yourself as strong as you can, and that'll be fine. Okay, that's 12 reps. I don't think that's too much.
And how many training days per week?
He said he's going to do 2. So
2. Good.
Yeah.
Minimalism with this sort of thing.
I think minimalism, because you just want to use the weight room to stay strong and to counter some of the effects of the running. I wouldn't go crazy on flexibility work. I would start strongly thinking about, I would make good, solid shoe decisions as soon as you can. I would try to go barefoot at least one workout a week as appropriate. If you live near a beach, that would be great, or a big grassy field that doesn't have glass or dog poops. Yeah.
Gooseberries.
Yes. Or, nuts. We have this time of year, the trees drop these hard nuts.
Oh yeah, like those. You got the black walnut trees around there.
Whatever.
I used to sprint up a hill with those things. I would just trying to dodge landmines.
Yeah.
Conrad says, think about top-down work when going for a heavy overhead press. I've push pressed a weight overhead, braced, racked, then immediately strict press the weight. Is that just a trick, or is there value in that?
That was huge in the 1960s. That was a very, very common way to train the military press. My only complaint about dropping the military press in 1972 out of Olympic lifting is that we just threw out the baby with the bathwater, to use that cliche. There was a problem with the everyone leaning back so much and cheating on the press. Okay, good. And then we just threw the lift out. Sadly, we lost all the information that went along with building the press.
Right.
Yeah. So Conrad, that was a very, in fact, Dick Nottmeyer, when I first started with him in 1974, we still would do, so we would still do a lot of these little press outs after every jerk, but then sometimes he would ask me at the end of the jerk to bring the load down as slow as I could. And boy, I tell you, you discover quickly where your gaps are.
Right.
Right where my elbows hit 90, there was no strength.
Yeah. So the idea here, just to clarify for the listeners, is you push, press, or jerk the weight up. You brace as you bring it down, and it has a sort of potentiating effect, let's call it that might somehow allow you to press it immediately back up in a strict fashion that might not have been accessible to you if you just started from the rack to begin with. That's what
Yeah.
Conrad's talking about. And what Dan is saying is, yeah, this is actually a legitimate technique that you can use intelligently to improve your pressing strength, right?
And I think,
which I agree with, by the way. That is
Yeah.
it. Mm-hmm.
In this book that the author has condemned, because that's what one does if you're in the kettlebell world, Perfecting the Press, I think that Kenneth recommends the same exercise.
So you love that. I mean, it's so different than Dan, the way you and I talk. Like, I look back at my work I've done 10 years ago, and I'm like, yeah, pretty much all there. Would tweak a few things here and there, but then there's other people who just look back at their previous work and they condemn every ounce of it. And it just, to me, that just seems very. It just seems interesting, to say the least.
Well, right here we have Plateau Breaker 10 Micro Shock Yielding Isometrics. I mean, who can argue with that? So
it's a cool name.
That's why you always have a library, as we used to say in South San Francisco. I'm going to the library.
Right. But that book has been condemned. So anyway, Conrad, keep it up, right? Dan, how often would you, so obviously that's going to be a very intense technique. That's probably not something that somebody's going to want to do like every single session.
It's actually even more intense than pure isometrics.
Right.
Concentric work. Man, if you do a 10-second, if you jerk it and bring it down in 10 seconds, that eccentric slowness. I remember back when I first started to try this. This is a long time ago, and I apologize, gentle listener, if I'm not as clear as I should be. My brain is going back 41 years right now to 1980 when we tried this out with the bench press, and then in 1985 I brought it back with the bench press. So we're looking at a while ago.
Yeah.
What I found is that, if you do it seriously once a week, maybe twice, that's all you can really do. And you really can't do very many reps.
Shoot for the minimum effective dose for this.
Yeah, it is very, very little. And that's kind of the problem, always has been with isometrics and eccentric work. You need so much less that very few athletes or trainers can handle it, because it's so minimal. It's just so minimal. It's like if you got an apartment and all you had was a mattress and a single chair and a single outlet, and a George Foreman fryer and a slow cooker. I mean,
I love the George Foreman.
So do I. I'm just saying that.
I haven't had one since college. I need to get that back. Yeah.
But to commit to that lifestyle, and it sounds great when you first say it, but it'd be tough. It'd be tough,
I think I'm going to go get a George Foreman after this, Dan. Is it still around? They still sell those?
Yeah, get the outdoor one. It's great. The big, outdoor grill. Yeah, it's huge.
You see the fat dripping right off. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. And the hornets and wasps. Yeah, they love that thing. Yeah.
Right. Marco says, this is a good question. What is your experience or the connection between training and self-confidence and feeling good about yourself? Dan, is being in the weight room and training, has it improved your self-confidence at all?
Just summarize my entire life, Marco. That's, I would say a whole bunch of I don't like the word self-esteem. I like the word self-worth a little bit better. And I even worry about that. But so much of my whatever Freudian term you want to throw out is wound up in my time in the weight room. I am a product of Strength and Health magazine, 1967. That's just
right. Just for me personally, huge game changer in terms of, I would even say it helped me to explode limiting beliefs, right? Of what I thought I was capable of. Because I'm with you. Like, obviously your value as a human being doesn't depend on your body fat percentage or how much you bench press. However, when I started taking fitness seriously and I started getting in shape, it helped me to realize that I was capable of doing things that I never thought I was capable of before. And that just completely reshaped my perspective in so many different areas of life. I don't even know how my life would be apart from that now, because I don't have that counterfactual scenario, right? But I can tell you that I thought one way before being in the gym, and it wasn't great. It was a very limited way of thinking about myself and this or that. And then through the work in the gym and my great coaches and mentors, those limiting beliefs were not immediately, but gradually overcome. Yeah.
So in 2002, when Dr. Vanderhoof told me I'd never lift weights again, what did I do?
You lifted weights again.
No, I started writing Getup, the newsletter called Getup, which was fabulous until the hours of editing just caught up to me. It's when I decided I had to train a different way, and Mike Rosenberg sent me out some toys to play with, and that's when loaded carries became the only thing I did in training. That was it.
Very cool.
So yeah, so for me, it very many times in my life, I've been told by people close to me, I need to go and work out because you're driving us crazy.
They know it does a good. It does a good.
Yeah.
Conrad has a question. With your 3x3, Dan, do you have your MAF headphones in?
No.
If so, what's the HR and HRV Impact? A lot of abbreviations there, Dan. Help us unpack this.
It's the I have the Phil Maffetone earbuds that are a heart rate monitor. I know I don't use a heart rate monitor very much anymore. Heart rate monitors for me is something I'll use every couple of years, and I'll figure out again where the new zone is for my life. And almost universally, Conrad, I use the talking test. For me, that's what I need. The talking test is the best thing I have. So as after I want to finish my Olympic lift, Conrad, kind of here, probably too high of a heart rate. And then when I go for the walk, bring that heart rate down to the talking zone. And if I can do the talk test, I'm usually in the right, almost exactly in the right place.
Right.
Yeah. So that's me. So no, I can't Olympic lift with earphones on. I got my head snaps. My head snaps. So that's just not where you want to be.
Got it. Callum says upper cross syndrome. Kettlebell squat is difficult because of the posture for me, guys. Yeah, not uncommon. A lot of people kind of the causes of upper cross, just a lot of sitting, right? So much sitting, so much driving, just a lot of the things we do in life tends to create that type of imbalance, which can make it very difficult to keep good posture in a squatting position. So Dan, what do we recommend for this? Any ideas?
Callum, I was in the UK a year or two ago, and everybody in the UK says that upper cross syndrome doesn't exist. I got ripped on the Instagram for posting Yonda. I mean, aren't we all going to die because we quoted Yonda right there?
Did you get harangued, Dan, in the UK?
And the thing is, it was the day my brother died, and the next day I got up to do part 2, and I announced, because the guy put it on Instagram or Facebook, and he sent it to this asswipe. I don't want to get into it, but and I got up there and I said, if you have, and I said the next day, and I go, if you got an issue with something I say, raise your hand and say it. Don't post it on social media. And then I pointed to the area that I knew the picture was taken, and I said, if the person was sitting here, you got an issue, you come talk to me. I'm not going to beat you up or anything. Come talk to me, man to man, human, person to person, and clear it up with me. Don't post shit on Instagram or Facebook and call me out there. God, they were sitting in the goddamn audience. Right. Didn't have the courage to step up. What a goddamn pussy.
Right.
God, well, it pisses me off. I'll tell you why it pisses me off. That's the shit I hate about the internet. You hide behind your Instagram, right, your Facebook post. You think you're a goddamn expert. And when you had a chance to help me, educate me, you didn't take the chance. Instead,
right. And
piss, motherfucker.
The reason for that is because people don't care either about the truth or helping other people. They care about signaling themselves, right? It's a form of narcissism. It's a sick form of narcissism. Yeah. And it's especially gross in the fitness industry. I just see people this is why I just stay out of it, because it's so unproductive. It's so petulant. The manly thing, the virtuous thing to do is, if you have an issue with somebody says and you actually care, this is my policy, Dan. If it's online, I never make it public. I send them a private message, because then I know nobody's looking, and I can just have a conversation with somebody about something person to person, and it's not about what do other people think about it. It's I'm talking with you about this matter because that's what I care about. If people, I think, just adopted, even online, policies like that, you could avoid this exceedingly petulant, vicious behavior that's so common online, right?
And by the way, Colin, are you my student from St. Mary's? Post if you are.
Right. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he is, but I appreciate your frustration on that, Dan.
No,
I
and
do.
the thing
It's,
is,
yeah.
and the thing what pisses me off is that some of these people will say all kinds of stuff on these little hidden forums. Iron Garmix got that way. Of course, that's gone. But Iron Garmix, they would just say these things, and then if you, and even in some cases, I would go in because I knew who the person was. In one case, I called them up on the phone because that's what I do, and it's like, and then you meet these people in real life, and it's like, it's called protein and veggies. Why don't you try that, you fat? And you got the one guy who's always just dropping F-bombs and doing the expert stuff. He's 5'7". He's on. He's just. I'm sorry.
Next question comes from Coco Loco, if I'm pronouncing that right. That's a fun name, isn't it, Dan? What would you suggest to a person who cannot squat at all? And how would you help open up their hips? Would hurdle stepovers work well, or what?
Oh, yeah. 90-90 stretches, hurdle. The hurdle is a wonderful device, not just for track and field, but for all kinds of things. I used to like to have in the middle of our workouts for our American football players and track and field athletes. So they would do a front squat, an Olympic lift, and then do a set of hurdle walkovers or hurdle go-unders, where you go under the hurdle. Yeah. If you can't squat at all, can you do things like 6-point rock? If your knees are so bad, boy, if your knees are so bad you can't squat, you can't put any load on them. You just keep finding ways to do everything. But you're right. I like this questioner's concern, because if my knees are bad, the knee bone's connected to the hip bone. So if my knees are hurting, then it's going to rise up to the hips. It's going to rise up to the spine. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, pretty soon you're going to have some lower back issues that are, it's like hurting your ankle, and pretty soon you have lower back problems. Yeah.
Right on.
So
but yeah, by the way, I'm putting a link in the comments on apparently upper cross syndrome, which doesn't exist, but this article I think says it does, and it just has some good resources from the Personal Training Development Center.
Yeah.
I've written for them in the past, and Dan, I think you've done some work with them before, haven't you?
Good
yeah.
And by the way,
guys.
you have an email with that the 90-day program.
Excellent, very good. All right, let's take one or two more questions here. That's Sal's question about the kimchi. Are you still making your what were you making? Sauerkraut or cabbage, Dan?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it off for a few more. I'll be doing that again in the fall. That's a fall thing for me. Because then I can leave it outside. And the nice thing about when you make your own sauerkraut, you want it outside, and you don't want it outside in Utah summers. You want it out in Utah falls.
Got it. All right, a lot of questions on knee stuff here, guys. I'm sorry if we're limited on what we can say with respect to injuries and medical issues for obvious reasons. It always has to come with many qualifications, but we'll do what we can. Nigel says, how can I strengthen my knees with a particular kettlebell movement, or what would you suggest to strengthen my knees? I did a charity walk recently, and his steep downhill runs ruined him.
Yeah, that's Nigel. In fact, is it Nigel who I met in the UK? If it is, hi Nigel, and I'm still thinking about you, brother. The problem, like when I tell people to run hills, I always tell people to sprint up hills, and I always tell people to walk gingerly down, because walking downhill, we have here in Utah, it's called the Deseret News Marathon. I don't know if it's been around for a year or so, but it's considered one of the hardest marathons in the world. But wait a second, it's because of the altitude, because of the heat. No, the first 10 miles are downhill. And very, very good marathoners will say it's by far the hardest, because as you would think, because you're looking at your splits, and the times are just amazing. Then you go flat, and that eccentric load has destroyed your quads and your knees, and you don't run very well. So yeah, Nigel, that is the downhill. The only, if you don't mind, instead of a kettlebell movement, would you mind this? Why don't you take that kettlebell and walk backward up hills and build the knee that way, if you don't mind? See if we can give you a little bit of the, let's see if that helps, because it's been a game changer with the people I work with. If you don't have hills, then drag a sled backwards, or just do farmer walks backwards. It won't be as good. You know, you could probably set it up that if you have a curb, you could do some kind of, but don't go crazy. Please don't internet this. I said a curb that's about this much. I didn't say a box. I didn't say a 9-foot box. I didn't say the side of a mountain, just a small little one. Yeah.
Right. Great advice. Let's squeeze in one more here, Dan, and then we'll hear what's coming down the pipeline here.
Sorry about getting pissy, but I can't help myself.
It's all right, Dan. Brendan says, here's a good question. So he's new to kettlebells. How long, or resistance training in general, how long do you think it would take for him to go from amateur to intermediate? And Dan, I'd be curious, just how would you classify this? How would you say, okay, this is sort of maybe amateur category. What does intermediate look like? This is interesting.
How long? Right? Not long. It gets us back to that great thing Dave Tate says, that there, it's shitty sucks good, and great. I think I have it right. Shitty sucks bad and good, something like that. To go from amateur to intermediate, I think, and I love where your head's at on this one. Is it Brendan? Brendan, yeah. I like where your head's at on this, because that's I think Pat would agree with me, is if you're intermediate in 5 or 6 different things in life, that's pretty good, and I would say it wouldn't take long. I'd like to see you show mastery to be intermediate. I'd like to show mastery at the swing, the goblet squat. Oh yeah, let's just go back to what we started with, the half kneeling press. Maybe be able to do the Turkish Getup movements, not with a ton of load. That, to tell you what, if you could do some kind of kettlebell, like Pat's got the 300 for 30 challenge, right? 300 swings a day for 30, something like that. I think would clearly put you in that been there, done that, know what I'm talking about range for kettlebells.
Awesome. Good. Dan, before we wrap up, what is cooking over at Dan John University? And
I have huge news, but I also want to say this weekend I drive out to Taylor Lewis's wedding, and I'm very much looking forward to it. So Taylor is a good friend of mine. He's a Dan John black belt, and I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Yesterday we came out with easy strength, advanced techniques, and it's huge. I mean, I cannot believe how many chapters it's 18 chapters on. Of course it's 18 chapters, because I thought I said everything I could ever say about easy strength, and then questions came in, and so obviously, and it's on the site. If you're not a member, it's $100, and if you're a member, it's $50. And I'm already working on the next one, which will be free for the members on the site, which is easy strength for fat loss. And I'm working on, it's been kind of fun. It's been a fun putting this next one together, but so easy strength, advanced techniques. I talk about stretch reflex training. I talk about, peaking always, because peaking comes up a lot. I talk about all kinds of different, it's good. I talk about tension and tempo a lot. I give you a new look at the movement matrix. Yeah, I think it's pretty good.
Awesome. DanJohnUniversity.com. Check it out, gentle listeners. Dan, I don't know who this lovely fellow is that's getting married, but congratulations. No, I don't, but he's a Dan John black belt, so he's got to be, he's got something going for him, right?
So Taylor, real quick, give me 20 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So years ago at the Mike Boyle invited me out, and it was that time where everyone thought there'd be fireworks, and Mike and I would fight over, bilateral deficit. And of course, Mike and I agree on literally everything. And I'm sitting at the bar. I go up to get dinner, and I go, "Hey, is anyone sitting here?" And start talking to this guy. I go, what are you here for? And he goes, I'm here for this workshop, Mike Boyle. I go, oh, that's interesting. I go, who's speaking? I go, I don't know. I've never heard of the guy. And I go, well, I think his name is Dan John. And that's where Taylor and I met.
Oh, that's funny.
And then I just drug him along, and he went to the Boston University hockey game with us. He went to the Super Bowl party at Mike's house. Mike Taylor works with two of the most famous baseball players in history. You know their names, but he also works with people who have this condition called cystic fibrosis. And he actually has a chapter in my new Easy Strength thing, because he did a study with people with cystic fibrosis using strength training to increase their tests on cardiovascular tests. So strength training helps people with a lung disease do better on cardiovascular tests. So if it works for people with cystic fibrosis, you can assume it works for you.
Very cool. Well, sounds like a great man. Congratulations to him, and I hope you have an awesome time, Dan. Yeah. But otherwise, same time next week.
I hope so. We'll have to talk offline about some things first in my world. And just, but and I'll be honored to share some things with you, and then we'll here we go, huh, man?
Beautiful, Dan. Thank you so much, as
Love
always.
you, Pat.
Love you too. See you later.
Bye, gentle.